Hello everyone, my name is Hannah. Welcome to a new video. Today's video is going to be talking about all of the series that I am currently in the middle of, but not caught up on. So I'm in the middle of a lot of series, but the ones that I'm caught up on and they don't have a book out yet, a new book out in the series that I can read, I'm not going to mention in this video. So ACOTAR. We know that the fifth book is coming, but since it's not out yet or it's not even been announced yet, technically I am still in the middle of that series, but I'm not counting that. I'm counting the ones that have books that have come out that I just either need to finish the series or catch up and get to the point where I can pick up the new release or the newest release in that series, if that makes sense. So first up at the top of the list is the Zodiac Academy series. So back in, I think it was 2022, maybe 2023, I can't remember exactly when it was that I picked up that series. I read all of those books in 1 month. I let it consume me. I was so addicted to it. I had a group of friends that was all reading it at the same time, and I think at the time it was only 7 books out, and it was I could just binge it. And I loved that series so much. It was such a fun time. And then we had to wait for the next book to come out, and by the time that the next book came out, it was supposed to be the finale. And so then it was okay, I'm gonna pick up the finale. And then they announced that there was another book coming out. And so I was okay, well, I don't want to read that one because I know that that series ends every book on a massive cliffhanger. So then I was oh, okay, maybe I'll just wait until the final book comes out then. And since then, the final book has come out and the series has completed. I just haven't finished the last 2 books. So I need to pick up the 8th book, which is called Sorrow and Starlight. Yeah, Sorrow and Starlight. And then the 9th book, which is called Restless Stars. I don't know if I will reread the 7 books in the series before picking that one up. That seems like a big commitment because those books are really thick. But I do have a video where I discuss everything that happens in the series. So I could just watch that. It's an hour long, but I think I do a pretty good job of recapping what goes on in each book and discussing it. So I'll probably just watch that video again and then dive right in, because I still remember most of what happens in that whole series because it was very memorable for me. But yeah, it was a big part of my reading back then. So I do love the series and I love those characters and I want to know how it's going to end. I just need to finally pick up those last 2 books. So that one made the top of the list. Next up is the Magnolia Parks series. So Magnolia Parks series, the universe, whatever you want to call it, the MPU, it's 2 different series intertwined. So there's the books that follow Magnolia and BJ, and then there's the books that follow Daisy and Christian. And so the Magnolia and BJ story arc ends with this 3rd, or if you want to look at it, it's the 5th book in the series. So it's called Into the Dark. So it wraps up Magnolia and BJ's storyline. And then I believe there's 2 more books coming out in the Daisy Hates series, or Daisy Hates portion of the series. The timelines overlap, the characters overlap, it's just they follow different relationships basically. But yeah, again, another series that completely consumed my reading. I was absolutely obsessed with it, as were most of my friends, and so it was another bonding thing for us. I absolutely love Jessa's writing in that series. I love Magnolia and BJ. I really want to know what happens, but there is some tougher topics that are talked about in that series. One in particular is very personal to me, so I avoided it because I didn't want to read any mention of this specific thing. I think I'm at a point now where I could read it, I think, without being traumatized by it, but I'm still a little hesitant to pick it up specifically because of that reason, even though I want to know where the story itself goes. But I do want to finish Magnolia and BJ's story arc because I love them and I love Jessa's writing, and I just want to know how their tumultuous relationship is going to end. And then of course I'll be picking up the Daisy Hates books when they come out, but those ones aren't out yet. But the Magnolia and BJ story is complete, so I just have to read this final book. But I have to kind of get over my hesitation a little bit with that one because that one's a little more personal to why I haven't picked it up, versus like I just haven't picked it up, you know? But it is on the list. Next on the list is the Sacred Stones series by Kate Golden. So the first book is A Dawn of Onyx. I loved A Dawn of Onyx. I gave that one 5 stars. It was one of my like favorite fantasy romances. And it's a trilogy and it is completed. So I need to pick up books 2 and 3. So book 2 is A Promise of Peridot and book 3 is A Reign of Rose. And I have A Promise of Peridot on my physical TBR. I do want to complete it. I think with this one, the holdup was that it was originally like self-published or indie published, and then it got picked up by a traditional publisher, which slowed down the release of the next books. And then I went through a little tiff with fantasy romance for a bit, so I wasn't like in the mood to pick up any fantasy romance. So that's why I ended up not completing that series, but I do really want to. I think I want to reread A Dawn of Onyx before going into books 2 and 3, so that way I'm like back into the story, and it's only rereading 1 book instead of like 7, like with Zodiac Academy. But since I know I really like Kate Golden's writing and I like the story and the characters, I think I'll really like it. I just need to be in the right mood for fantasy romance. Next up are 2 newer series that I have recently gotten into and have, one, taken me by surprise and everyone around me by surprise, but also like I just got into them, so it's okay that I haven't quite finished the series yet, and that is my Brandon Sanderson series. So first one is Mistborn. I've read the first book and I need to finish the second and third book. So The Well of Ascension is book 2 and then The Hero of Ages is book 3. So I'm waiting for the audiobooks from my library. I am only a few weeks away from the Well of Ascension audiobook becoming mine, and I will read that when it comes. And then whenever The Hero of Ages comes, I'll pick that one up as well. And then of course 2025 is the year of the Cosmere for me, so I will be reading his other series as well. There's a Mistborn Era 2 series. I haven't even started that one, so I wouldn't say I'm in the middle of that series, but I will be picking it up, that's for sure. And then, of course, his other series that I am currently in the middle of is the Stormlight Archive. That is just everything that I want and more of a high epic fantasy series. I am currently reading Oathbringer, which is book 3, and there's 5 books out. So the 4th book is Rhythm of War, and the 5th book is Wind and Truth, which just came out in December. So I don't want to like rush through this series, but also like I don't want to put it off too long, so that way the story like is still fresh for me. But I do know that there's going to be like a second arc to the Stormlight Archive, which is like there's going to be another 5-book series, but it's set later, I believe, and I think it's following different characters, so it's not going to be the exact same points of view. But I believe we're not getting that for like another decade, so that is a little upsetting. However, I do have basically Brandon Sanderson's whole backlist to kind of keep me occupied, and I don't have to like rush through any of them. Again, I'm just taking my time with each of his series and enjoying it and finishing them when I finish them, rather than like absolutely binge reading all of them, you know? Next up on the list is the Divine Rivals series. I feel like this series has a different series name. Letters of Enchantment. I hope that's the right name. Anyways, the first book is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross, and I really enjoyed the first book, but then when the second book came out, I just never ended up picking it up, and it's just a duology, so I just need to pick up Ruthless Vows, and I'll have completed this series. I know my friend Sahar just recently read Ruthless Vows, and I think she enjoyed it. She said it was a good time, so I do want to pick it up and know how the story is going to end, because I did really enjoy the first book. But yeah, it was just kind of like it ended up coming out. I didn't like rush to pick it up right away, and so then it just kind of fell to the wayside, I guess. Same with the Alchemical Journeys series by Shauna Maguire. So the first book in that series is Middle Game, which I absolutely loved that book. I gave it 5 stars. And then the second book is called Seasonal Fears. I did enjoy that one, just not quite as much as the first. And I think that the publishing times like were pretty spread out with these ones. Like Middle Game came out, and then it was like over a year before Seasonal Fears came out, and then I believe it was like over another year. And yeah, they just kind of like take the back seat a little bit in my brain versus books that are like coming out like, you know, within a year or even less than a year sometimes. So The third book in this series that I haven't picked up yet is called Tidal Creatures, and I just really love Shauna Maguire's writing. So I've read several of her books in different series and stuff, and I just really love her writing, so I want to read this one. I'm sure it follows different POVs because the first book follows this set of POVs. The second book follows different ones, but then you get cameos of the main characters from the first one, so I'm sure it'll be like different people with cameos of our like characters we know and love. Yeah, another one where I just need to read one book to be all caught up. I don't know if there's going to be more books coming out after that or if it's going to be done after this third one. I'm not really sure, but I'll have to read it and find out. Next up, we have a graphic novel series slash webtoon series, and that is Lore Olympus by Rachel Smythe. This is a Hades and Persephone retelling, and I read the first 5 volumes of it, and when the 6th volume came out I just ended up not picking it up, and I really love this series. They're so quick to read, so I think the 6th and the 7th volume are currently out, so I want to pick those up. And then the 8th volume comes out in May, and the 9th volume comes out in October. And technically I think they're all online and I could go on webtoons and like read them all right now, but I prefer like having them physically, so I think that's like I've just been waiting for them to come out. But yeah, the 6th and 7th one are currently out, so I want to catch up so that when the 8th one comes out in May I can read that one, and then when the 9th one comes out in October I can pick that one up right away as well. And then the last series, like it's 2 series that are kind of like again intertwined, and they're a doozy. So this is the Blood and Ash and Flesh and Fire series. So the first book being From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I read the first 4 books in that series, really love them, and then she started a prequel series that's kind of like interwoven, so it's like you almost kind of need to read the prequel series as you read the like original series, and like I think she recommends that you just read them in publication order rather than trying to read like the prequel series and then the original series, or however, I'm not really sure. I'm gonna just read them in publication order. But yeah, I read the first 4 books in the Blood and Ash series. The 5th book, A Soul of Ash and Blood, is already out, and then the 6th book comes out in June, and that one's called A Primal of Blood and Bone. And so I want to try to catch up with that series. Again, I don't think that I'll end up rereading them because there's just so many of them. But it's another series where I'm like, I still like vividly remember certain scenes and stuff. Like I remember the things that happen. I could just like look up a recap or watch a recap video or something before I go into them. So like I make sure I know everything before going into the new books. And then with the Flesh and Fire series, I never finished the 2nd book, which is called A Light in the Flame. So I'd have to go back to the beginning of that one and reread that one. Then book 3 is called A Fire in the Flesh, and book 4 is called Born of Blood and Ash. So she like reuses the same words over and over again, which can make it very confusing of like what book is what. So thank God for Goodreads for telling me like what is book number 4, what is book number 5, what is book number 6, and telling me the publication dates, because there's no way that I would remember all of that because all of the books sound like the exact same title. But yeah, I do really like that series and I do want to complete it. I wanted to see how it's all going to wrap up and where it's all going to go. Again, it became a lot because I think it was originally supposed to just be a trilogy, and then it got extended and now it's just like this huge massive series with an intertwined prequel series, and it's a lot. So I do want to finish it, but yeah, it's a little bit of a commitment. Oh, and one other book I forgot to mention is the Crowns of Nyaxia book. So technically it's still like in a series. So the first book is called The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent, and she's doing a series of duologies. So I've completed the first duology and absolutely loved them both. And then she's got a new duology following one of the side characters from the first duology, and I just haven't picked up that first one yet. It's called The Songbird in the Heart of Stone or something like that. So I do want to pick that one up as well. So technically I'm still in the middle of that series. I just haven't picked up that book yet. One, because it's a fantasy romance, and like I said, I've just been on a little break from fantasy romance, but once I'm back into that reading mood, I'll pick it up. And 2, I haven't heard the best things about that one. It did get picked up by a traditional publisher, and I don't know if maybe that's why. Who knows? But I do want to read that one as well. So I believe those are all of these series that I am currently in the middle of that have books out that I just need to catch up on. If I didn't mention them, I either completely forgot that they exist or I'm not interested in continuing the series. Let me know down below in the comments what series you are in the middle of or what series you're most excited to catch up on and finish. Let me know if any of the ones I mentioned today made your list, or if you're excited to see me read those books. I might even do like a series on my channel, a series on my channel where I like complete series, which I think would be really fun. So yeah, that is going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!